Well, hello and welcome to episode number 398 of the Plain Talking UK podcast. In this week's packed show, we take a look at the recent fight between a Boeing 747 cargo aircraft and some baggage containers. EasyJet go on a drive. Well, a recruitment drive, that is. And we look at one airline who will fly you to the US for £139. And yes, you do get to sit on a seat. In the military news this week, we look at some of the aviation developments in the Ukraine. US forces blow up an MH-60 helicopter, and lots of grey painted fighter jets fly over to the UK to celebrate the 80th anniversary of the 8th Air Force. Joining me this week, as always, our skydiver, stuntman, and king of the Waveney Valley airwaves. It is, of course, Matt Smith.
You've been sniffing things again. What on earth are you on about?
I'm reading the intro as it is on the screen in front of me.
Yeah, the intro you wrote, I should say.
Yes, true. Yes, true. Matt, can I draw your attention to a comment in the chat room by Nick Codling, who just before, or just as you hit the go button, said, what? No PTUK technical challenges. It's all been a bit flawless lately. What's going on?
Oh, why would you read that? What? Sorry, there's still 2 hours of this madness to go. Anything's possible, really. Anything's possible, yeah.
Anyway, how are you, Matt?
I'm fine.
I hear you've got beer.
Yeah, I do have beer. Yeah, absolutely. It's very, very exciting. So Carlos very kindly dropped me off a beer today. I've got an Adnams Kobold, which is an English lager. And I have to say, it's genuinely one of the nicest lagers I've ever had. And I'm not even joking. It is absolutely beautiful.
Lovely. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Well, you can have the other one later on during the show. As a treat.
Oh, thank you.
also joining me this week on the show is a man who literally has no more space for his BA points on his gold card, and they are flying in an Antonov AN224 to take up the slack. It's Neville Bones.
Yes, it's getting to that time of the year where the gold points renew again. But a lot of flying this week in the Scandinavian region. More about that later on. Good to be back on the show and good to be back home, actually. It makes a nice change because it's been almost a different hotel every night this week. So,
I was going to say, Nev, you've sort of literally lived out of a suitcase for the last week.
I have, and luckily this time I didn't overpack, which is what I tend to do, and I end up with far too much stuff which I don't end up wearing. But I knew that the temperature in Sweden was going to be -8,
fresh,
and I was not disappointed.
No, in that respect. Indeed. Can I just say, Mike is saying apparently we're saving up all our technical issues for the 400th.
Oh, thanks for that, Mike.
Thanks for that, Mike.
Okay. Oh, my word. Anyway, and completing the PTUK Dream Team this week is a guy who can literally fly any aircraft, including one made of Lego. It's Armando.
Lego?
Hey, guys. I am going to do my best to contribute to the PTUK technical difficulties, since it's usually my fault.
Yeah. Thanks for that.
I am... fresh off a flight. I've actually been flying the last 2 days, and I was rushing home to get here for the podcast. It's been a challenging last couple days here on the East Coast, dodging thunderstorms and whatnot, but we cheated death once again, and here I am.
Oh, lovely. Well, and on that cheery note...
The intrepid aviators that we are, we cheated death once again.
How's your snow at the moment over there in Charlotte, Armando?
What's funny is, I think it was last week, we had snow for 3 weekends in a row, which was crazy for the state of North Carolina. It's all melted now. It's just yucky, rainy, but we've made it.
Oh, well, send some over here. We haven't had any yet.
Oh, no, thank you.
All right, okay. Well,
no, because the company that I work for and the courier that we use, they don't need any excuse to stop delivering cases of wine. So please don't send any snow this way. Even snow, don't do it.
Even snow. No, we can't deal with snow.
They don't need any excuses.
So, Matt, over to you for this next bit.
Yes, folks, I need to make a little bit of an apology, actually. One of our listeners reached out to us and sort of said that, a bit strange that the podcast hadn't been released yet. We've the podcast provider that we use has now moved to a version 5 of their platform, and it's safe to say that we've been having a few problems releasing the show this week. So really, it's just a quick apology for how late because by the time it had been brought to my attention, I think it was already Wednesday, and it should have been published on the Sunday. So my sincere apologies for the very late release of last week's podcast, but hopefully it didn't lose all its relevance to that week's aviation news off the back of it. But we are aware that there is a bit of a problem with this new version 5 and the way that we publish the show, which we are desperately looking into. It myself and John have been on Zoom calls all this week trying to get to the bottom of it, but we are working on it, and yes, thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Yes, and next up, before we hit the chat room and say hello to everyone, obviously Nev has been travelling around, various places over the last week, but also Nev has been made, he doesn't need to be made famous because Nev is obviously world famous, but Nev, what's been going on?
Well, I flew back today from Stockholm, very early flight this morning, and Bumpy does not even begin to cover it coming into Heathrow. But just as we landed, I noticed that Jerry from EasyJet TV was out there with his camera, and I thought, I wonder if he caught my A319 landing. And it turns out he did. So I sent him a quick message this morning, and here I am, sideways on the ILS, basically.
Now we've been watching this like on and off, haven't we? Like pretty much most of the day,
Yes.
and this is quite a. Now we were all very concerned when we were watching this earlier. We were all very concerned for the safety of your gin and tonic in 1F.
It was all levelled up nicely, and but of course you won't be able to see me in 1F, which is where I was. I was waving away, but obviously the windows on the 319 are quite small. So.
Indeed. Now you were saying actually, because this is my idea of hell, really, this sideways landing and stuff. But you were saying actually that wasn't the worst bit.
Oh no! That just as we broke cloud, that was okay. It was the bit before that, so probably about 5,000 feet, something like that. The weather was just, well, you can see what the weather was like today. It was just one of those awfully squally days, really. But yeah, that was very bumpy. Luckily, they put all the cutlery away and everything like that. So,
right, okay.
The caviar didn't get spilt on the floor.
No, nobody was hurt during the making of said landing. Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to sort of actually, I was a little bit overexcited because we actually got a little mention, didn't we, on the old.
We caught the guys from Plain Talking, apparently, folks. Podcast series, wanting to use feature our footage on a show. When today? Did you say? Tonight at 7 p.m.
As the bird flies across the runway.
Plain Talking UK. Okay, here we go.
There we go. Yes. So yes, our thanks to Jerry and all the team at EasyJet TV for letting us use that footage this evening. It was quite nice to see you coming into land, Nev. I quite like that.
Yes, there you are. You see, so I've defied gravity again, and I've walked away from.
Well
another
done.
round.
Excellent.
How about that?
An award-winning moment. Yeah.
Well done on that, Nev. That's always nice to see you in a different sort of light as such, because we normally get to see you on the TV doing the show, but it's nice to see you on board an aircraft, even if we couldn't quite see you through the windows. But no, well done on that, Nev. Well done.
I mean, he wasn't flying. He wasn't.
I know.
So the thanks should probably go to the pilot that got him on the ground safely. But
that was Captain Gareth, actually.
Oh, very good.
He was in the left-hand seat at the controls. Yeah,
love it. Well done. But enjoyable flight both ways.
Very much so.
Good.
So we're going to say a big hello to everyone who is joining in tonight in the YouTube chat room. There've been quite excitable this evening. We're with Lee Davies. Hello to you, Lee. Captain Cruz, John Jester. We've got some very good feedback coming up later from John.
It's part of the story. It was like it was planned.
Mazouz, hello to you, Mazouz. Hope you're well. Dirk S as well. Masher's in there. Nick Codling, he's been keeping everyone entertained in there this evening. So thanks for that, Nick. We've got our main man, Micah. Masher's in there as well. Let's make sure I don't miss anyone. Armando is in there as well. He's keeping an eye on things, which is always a good idea, as is Nev with the blue spanner of death.
Well,
Neil Lamb.
Nick Anderson must not be feeling that well because he's in the chat room, so he's got nothing else to do.
Neil Landwarn, hello to you, Neil. And Dr. Steph is also in the chat room, apparently, according to this list here. So hello to you, Steph. And we've got Captain Ridiculous Wits.
Oh, no.
That's Mr. Brown. He's a crossover from APG. Hello, James.
Oh, very good.
Hello. And Jonathan Warner is also in the chat room tonight as well. Which is always nice.
That was my Duxford buddy on Sunday.
On Sunday?
Yeah, we had a great time. Actually, please send me some pictures, Jonathan, and I'll pop them up later on in the show because we had. I didn't take any photographs on purpose. It's like, why would you have a really good photographer with you and take the photos yourself? That's not how this works.
And don't forget.
That's quite the full chat room. Why don't we just ditch the show notes and just have a nice 2-hour chat with everybody?
I mean, if you want, if you're brave enough to take that up with John, who spent all day doing it, then be my guest.
All right.
So if you are listening to us Babylon on an audio podcast and you'd like to see what we all look like, and
don't do it, stay where you are. But if not, check us out on YouTube. Just look for us on YouTube, Plain Talking UK. And if you haven't already done it, we'd love you to click on that subscribe button and also hit that bell icon if you want to be notified when we are live and recording episodes as we are right now. So, I suppose we better kick off with some commercial news. If everyone's ready. Oh, God, blimey, you're catching me out now, aren't you?
And Captain Jeff's lurking in the chat room.
Uh-oh.
So let's kick off this week's first news story on simpleflying.com. And Qatar, guitar, keyboard, whatever you want to call it, signs deal with Boeing. Qatar has signed a deal for Boeing's freighter version of its newest twin jet, the 777X. The order makes Qatar the launch customer for the new cargo jet with a commitment for up to 50 aircraft. In a surprising twist, the deal also includes an additional order for up to 50 737 MAX. Qatar Emir was visiting Washington for talks with the president this week and took the opportunity to sign for a total of 50 of the aircraft during his visit. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo, representatives from the government of Qatar, Boeing, GE Aviation and Qatar Airways all participated in signing the ceremony at 12:30 Eastern Time this week. The 777XF deal was signed for 34 firm orders and 16 options. While the 777XF deal had been doing the rounds on the aviation grapevine, more of a surprise was the inclusion of the narrow-body order with the deal. The airline has also signed up for 50 737 MAX aircraft, replacing the 50 A321neos that were cancelled by Airbus early this month. The order is for 25 firm and 25 options. The decision to look to the US manufacturer for its future needs does not come as a surprise for Qatar. The airline has been locked in a very public row with European plane maker Airbus over problems with some of its A350 passenger jets. Now, so they had the issue, didn't they, guys, with the paint peeling off the 350s. So I guess this is a way of them saying to Airbus, well, if you're not going to sort it out, we'll go elsewhere.
Damn you! Yes.
Yeah, it's quite. I still think there's. I know, because we covered this a little bit last week as well, didn't we? And
I
still think there's more to this story than is really going on. I don't know. I'm still convinced this is being used as an excuse for, having to maybe, back out of a contract or two,
There's no doubt about it. I bet you Qatar got a really, really, really good deal with Boeing for those 737 Maxes. Yeah. Absolutely, 100%. Yeah.
Guys, I looked this up a little bit earlier. 118 tons. That's the structural payload of a 777XF. Wow. That's a lot of cargo. That's almost identical to a 747 400 freighter.
Wow.
These things are massive.
Crazy,
and you've got 2 less engines to worry about.
Well, yeah, absolutely. So more efficient and all that kind of thing, isn't it? It's a bit of a win, isn't it?
So from one Max story to another Max story with you, Matt, and another US airline.
Yeah, so we've got a couple of Max stories actually in amongst this one. We'll start with American Airlines, and they're to buy more 737 Max jets, and they defer the Dreamliner delivery, which I think is an interesting story as well. It's from Reuters, this particular story. American Airlines said on Wednesday it had agreed to buy an additional 23 737 MAX 8 aircraft from Boeing by exercising existing purchase options and deferring the delivery of some 787-9 Dreamliner aircraft. The airline's move to boost its 737 MAX fleet comes at a time when domestic travel in the United States is staging a recovery despite the disruption caused by the Omicron variant of the coronavirus. American Airlines said in a filing that it intends to convert 7 more of its purchase options for the MAX this year, bringing its total order of the 737 MAX 8 to aircraft to 30. The company has deferred the delivery of Boeing's long-haul 787-9 Dreamliner aircraft that was scheduled to be handed over in January of next year. Deliveries of aircraft will now begin in the fourth quarter of 2023 and will continue into 2027, with 4 787-9 aircraft now scheduled for delivery in 2023, American said. Delays in the deliveries of the 787 jet has already forced the Texas-based carrier to scrap, reduce or defer the introduction of flights to several international routes. Boeing, which is already paying penalties to American Airlines for pushing back deliveries, said last week it had incurred $4.5 billion worth of charges in the fourth quarter on its 787 program that is suffering from production defects. The company said in a statement it will continue to work with American Airlines to support its fleet requirements. Meanwhile, in Ethiopia, the Ethiopian Airlines Boeing 737 MAX resumes flight operations. So this is from aviationtoday.com, and the Ethiopian Airlines has resumed operations of the 737 MAX for the first time since the 2019 tragedy of Echo Tango 302. In a February 1st press statement, Ethiopian Group CEO Telwald Gribra Mayam said the aircraft has taken enough time to monitor the design modification work and the more than 20 months of rigorous recertification processes that have taken place, and we have ensured that our pilots, engineers, aircraft technicians and cabin crew are confident on the safety of the fleet. Ethiopian Airlines has 4 737 MAX in its fleet and 25 remaining on order, with some scheduled for delivery later this year. Since civil aviation authorities first started approving the aircraft's return to service in late 2020, the MAX has accumulated more than 349,000 commercial flights and close to 900,000 total flight hours. Boeing received more than 700 net orders for MAX aircraft from airlines last year and completed a total of 263 MAX deliveries in 2021. Do we think we're finally coming to the end of the MAX story? That's the question.
You'd like to think that. I mean, the airlines are all starting to kind of move back to the MAX now. The MAX is, it's been pretty much recertified in all the different countries now around the world. and it seems like we're now kind of hit the peak now. We're now heading back to where things used to be before the accidents.
Yeah,
Possibly.
absolutely. Indeed.
What do you think, Armando?
Yeah, I certainly think that here in the U.S. at least, and most of the Western countries, we're getting over the bad publicity, and the MAX is already proving itself in actual operations. But Dirk in the chat room is saying that Ethiopian has planned to do so, but hasn't actually executed that plan yet.
Oh, have they not?
So,
Okay,
yeah.
interesting.
It might be just preparation of the media battle space.
Yeah, more than likely.
So, Nev, we're off to your favourite airline now for the next story.
In my Outlook inbox this week, I had an email from Sean Doyle, who's the CEO of British Airways. I thought, that's nice of him to write to me. But it actually turns out he's written to everybody. Not in the executive
Not
type,
you personally.
not just me. So that's a bit of a shame. But on the 1mileatatime.com and businesstravelnewseurope.com and on the ft.com, it says that British Airways has for years faced the same issues as so many other European airlines. The airline faces tough competition from ultra-low-cost carriers on short-haul routes and faces fierce competition from Gulf carriers in many long-haul markets. Figuring out the right balance between offering a premium product and controlling costs can be hard. BA's promised to improve its customer service and reduce call waiting times after coming through its worst crisis in our 102-year history, he says. Sean Doyle, who I mentioned as CEO, made the pledge in a message sent to all BA Executive Club members over the weekend. And he says, to our loyal customers, I'm writing you directly today in the spirit of transparency, which is the ethos we're striving to promote at British Airways in 2022 as we emerge from the worst crisis in our 102-year history. We know that for many months now we've been asking you to be patient with us, patient whilst we bring multiple aircraft back from airfields around the world, patient whilst we rebuild our network, retrain and recruit people to serve you better, and patient while we deal with the thousands of customers that need our help. To be frank, we've been moving from one set of restrictions to another, and the amount of change that we've been dealing with over the past couple of years from week to week has been relentless. I'm not seeking to make excuses for things that should have gone better. What I am doing is making a personal commitment to you that we will build a better British Airways, an airline you can trust and rely on, and that offers great customer service with someone always available to help. Most importantly, an airline that you are proud to fly with, an airline that you are proud is your British flag carrier. For me, 2022 is the year we're finally able to rebuild and re-energise our airline. After the recent news from the UK government around the removal of restrictions, it's time to get Britain moving again. Well, the letter went on to say that Doyle's priority is to address the customer call centre issues and also to create a better customer experience through the phones and social media platforms. Other pledges include a new baggage tracing system, expanding on the lounge table service introduced during the height of the pandemic. Onboard service is getting a review as well. Complimentary water and snacks on short-haul flights in the Euro travel cabin will continue, and the quality of meal choices across all cabins will be improved. BA recently published a video for employees intending to outline the direction the airline is taking as it continues to see a recovery. The Financial Times quotes Sean Doyle as saying the following: "There is room for optimism that we are on the way out. Putting the premium proposition into the heart of what we do is going to be key. We want people to come off a British Airways flight and talk about it as if it's something different. Any airline can go out and buy products off the shelf and put them on a plane. But it's actually the confidence and the style and the intimacy that we deliver in service that's going to be a differentiator." Well, that's some good words there, and I just hope he can follow through with everything, because it's been very difficult for all the crews, as we know, on all airlines, not just BA. But from what I'm seeing at the moment, there's a lot more activity at the airports. a lot of more aircraft flying, and the crews are coming back onto the aircraft as well. So, and the flying that I've been doing this week, they've done a very nice job. Like the sector out to Copenhagen on Monday, and the sector back from Stockholm today. Really nice indeed. So I'm really hoping this is going to go well for them.
I have a quick question for you, Nev. So this was the email that went out to the club members. So how did this differ from the handwritten letter that you received via courier to your doorstep? Did did they tell you any different? Sean Doyle?
I was hoping you weren't going to mention that. I was trying to play that down a bit. But no, it's the standard thing. But I'm glad he's done this, because they need to turn it around somehow. And the trouble is, you see, there's a lot of forums of BA travellers, and frankly speaking, you are paying for a premium service for the most part, and some of the standard has not been very good, but we all know why. That there's been all sorts of restrictions and difficulties there. So I'm hoping that things are going to get better. Now, I did say this at the start of 2021, I realise, but let's hope it really is true this time.
Fingers crossed.
Well, I have nothing but good things to say about their service, Nev, as you know.
Yep.
100%. So, Armando, you have got the next story, and this is quite the interesting story.
Yeah, this made its way around the social media circles. There's good security camera footage of this 747, China Airlines 747, that took out some baggage carts there in Chicago. Our story that we featured on the show, we'll put the link in the show notes, is from simpleflying.com and 100knots.com. However, as much as I would like to comment on this story, we have somebody that is incredibly more qualified to comment on it. So Captain John Jester, captain of the Queen of the Skies, actually a 747 freighter, is going to tell us a little bit about what happened here.
Hello, PT UK crew. This is John Jester, providing you some feedback on the 747 that attacked the baggage carts and sucked up the containers in Chicago O'Hare. Armando asked me to provide some feedback on this, since obviously I drive 747s for a living, and here it is. This aircraft is a 747 freighter and would be coming into O'Hare with landing weights somewhere under 302 tons. Normal landing weights generally being in the 240, 250 tons after a flight length of that type, where they flew from Taipei to Anchorage and then continued on down to Chicago O'Hare. The crew, most likely, I think because they're a foreign crew, would have stayed on board when it went through Anchorage. So they would have operated a roughly 8-hour, maybe 8.5-hour flight, depending on the conditions, up to Anchorage. Did a fuel stop there, maybe cleared customs, and then continued on down to O'Hare with a flight time generally of around 5 hours, maybe a little bit less, depending on the winds again. Coming into O'Hare, they were facing a situation with obviously poor weather. They did land successfully on 28 Center, it appeared from what I saw of news stories, and taxied into Southeast Cargo. The taxi route into Southeast Cargo involves a few turns in the last bit, similar to going into a chicane on a Formula One track, involving some relatively sharp steering angles on the 747. Now, a big issue we have with 747, especially in inclement weather, is that we do not have a lot of weight on the nose gear, and that allows the nose gear to slip, or we call it scrub, when we do larger steering angles. So we can steer that nose gear up to 70 degrees either side of center, but when we start turning much past 50, we run a major condition or issue with the conditions of scrubbing, and in snowy conditions, even 20, 30 degrees can start to scrub the nose gear. We have one thing that helps us, and that is the body gear steering is there as well, but that kicks in at roughly 5 knots, and it does cut out at a certain speed. Now, it's hard for me to judge on this video how fast they were going, but it does look very fast. I cringed quite a lot seeing that speed. And at first, when I saw the video, I thought there was a little bit of a time lapse effect, so that it looked fast because of time lapse. But apparently that is not. That is apparently true time video that is out there where it's inhaling the cans and through the number 1 engine and collecting up all the baggage carts with the number 2 engine. And you can see it definitely is very snowy. It looks like it just basically slid and plowed right into a container staging area, baggage cart staging area next to a gate area, in the gate areas when it came into that ramp. And it's not a very wide ramp in that southeast cargo pad. It's something you want to be on the center line and you need to maneuver in. Many of the parking spots that we utilize in that exact same location, we pull in straight, and then we are hooked up to a tug and we're pulled in so that we don't jet blast or have issues with getting into the gate. So we use oftentimes tugs to come to those gates. It looks like this event happened up very close to the entrance of the southeast cargo pad, and there is a turn coming in there, and it looks like they just had way too much speed for whatever reason into that area, and they plowed straight ahead before it started to turn and then collected all the stuff. I'm not sure what was going on, what the speed were involved, but obviously you have a significant amount of damage from that impact to the baggage carts and the sucking up the containers. I'd say at a minimum you're looking at 2 engine changes, full cowling replacements on both of those engines, plus any additional damage. I believe that there was some at least reported damage to the landing gear, doors on the wing gear, and possibly stuff on the flaps and stuff from all the debris coming out of the back of the engine that's been sucked into it. So that's my feedback you got for you. I hope that this helps, and if you guys have any questions, hopefully we'll be in the chat room.
I mean, wow, that's John. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, John.
That was absolutely brilliant. And I must admit, because we were having this conversation during the week, weren't we? And I was convinced that footage was either like where, because I know some CCTV cameras where it's recording like on a time lapse, so it's only recording every other frame and things like. Because to me, it looks so fast when it was going through. Because I think it was early part of last week, wasn't it, when this hit this story? But no, apparently it is real time.
I also thought the same thing. I said, well, maybe it's the camera is just getting time lapse or something, and it's replaying it back at a different speed. But no, it really was. And I after the story came out and then John offered his feedback, I went into Google Earth to look at it, and I can see exactly what he's talking about. The little chicane going onto Sierra 2, Sierra 1. It's literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different taxiways that converge onto 2 entrances into the south cargo area, and I can see exactly where those baggage carts were. And now it makes it. Well, first of all, I learned something. I didn't know that the 747 had body gear steering. I knew that other gear train was back there, but I had no idea that it steered. And I can see where that turn is, where if the front tire was skidding along the snowy pavement that it, go into those baggage carts. But hey, he would know what. I love our chat room. I love our listeners, because I was going to talk about it, but man, he's lived it, and he's been in there firsthand. So I thought it was pretty funny that China Airlines said that they have decided to retire that aircraft. It's like, yeah, no kidding. I mean, John said, a couple of engine changes, and it obviously it's, they can get it back in the air, but they already said in a statement that they were going to retire that aircraft in 2027.
Amazing.
Yeah, I think just watching that video when it first got released, I think I saw it first on Twitter. One of the aviation feeds on there posted it. Just watching it and just seeing that, I think it's an L3 baggage container, and I think it's what gets sucked in, and it literally does get sucked in. It's just took straight through the engine. You actually see the pieces coming out the back end of the engine. And what amazes me is the sheer fact that nothing caught fire. There was no.
Yeah, you see flames coming out more when it sucks in a bird or something. Yeah. But I guess that's under power. This was hopefully it was pretty low power, taxiing on that snowy, icy, taxiway, regardless of their speed. So. You can't help but think the beginning of Airplane, the movie, right? When the 747 like comes in through the terminal. Like, oh, that'll buff out.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's just a sort of great thing. I mean, the thing that sort of surprised me really is part of me was like, why is that stuff all like so far out? Yeah, it just sort of seemed to me. But I mean, again, when we were having a conversation like in planning yesterday, and apparently that is quite common, that stuff is quite a long way out of. It's not all tucked into the side of the terminal. If you see, I guess they haven't got room, have they?
Yeah.
But,
A couple comments in the chat room.
Lots of comments in the chat room.
Yeah, Nick Anderson says he wonders if the pilot monitoring was calling the ground speed. We also do that. We'll in my operation we do the same thing. It's not really an SOP, but it's kind of an unspoken one where. Especially at unfamiliar airports, or for us, we're a charter operation. We don't go into Class Bravo airports too much, but sometimes we'll call out the ground speed on off the GPS or inertial reference or whatever. But to make sure that we're keeping it in check, because sometimes the visuals are weird. And then in inclement weather like that, actually just yesterday morning, I think there was a video of a Pilatus that started up. And Nick Codling was saying in the chat room, extremely fortunate that there weren't any ground staff nearby. It was same thing. It was this recent ice storm that we're having this week, and it was a Pilatus that started up. And the general consensus is that the manual override power lever was not stowed, so they probably started it in the correct position, but then the manual override was full up, and that airplane started skidding, brakes on and everything. It started skidding. Right across the ramp, over the ice, over the snow. There was a marshaller there that was kind of marshalling the start. He jumped out of the way, and the Pilatus ended up hitting a Hawker 1000 that was sitting across the ramp, tore the wing off, tore the nose off the Hawker. Everybody seems to be safe. But, man, these inclement weather conditions and taxiing, it's just adds such a – and I think Nick's talked about it quite a bit, on APG, but it's just – everything, you have to slow it down, right?
Indeed. John Jester is actually adding there again. He's saying ground speed is deceptive visually in the 747.
That is true, actually. I had a jump seat ride on an Air New Zealand 747-400 into Los Angeles back in the day. I was very lucky to
when that was allowed, yes.
But I was amazed, obviously, at the height of the 747 cockpit and the visual sort of cues that you were getting as you were coming into land. You're going, well, it doesn't seem very fast to me at all. It's probably 150, 155 knots, something like that. And I would imagine perhaps on the ground as well, that unless you keep your taxi speed really in check, that can also be deceptive, the way your peripheral vision works when you're that much higher off the deck. Anyway, another Nev pro tip this week. We had one last week. Here's another one. Don't taxi quickly.
Right. Okay. Good. Food for thought there, Nev. Food for thought there. Absolutely. There we are. Thank goodness.
Also, good advice for the captain of the Titanic.
Yes.
Oh my word!
Wow.
Anyway, dear.
Oh my!
It's a whole other show on its own.
This episode is just the Queen of the Skies. I think that's the show title. Matt, you got this next, or no? Actually, Carlos, you got this
please,
next. Please,
somebody WhatsApp that to me because I'll have forgotten by the end of the.
Yeah, we're sticking with the Queen of the Skies, the 747, and John Jester will love this week's show with all this talk of 74s on here. But this one is from aviationonline.com, and this is regarding a very rare 747. This is a -400M Combi. And Jet1X is bringing a 747-400M Combi back to life and is the only operator of the model. So Jet1X becomes the only operator of the Boeing 747-400M, which is unique in that it can carry passengers in one section and cargo in the other half of the aircraft. US-based ACMI Charter acquired the jumbo that belonged to the government arm of the Dubai Air Wing. Wow!
I think it's the real Acme. That's Acme.
Acme, yeah. According to Cargo Fact, the aircraft in question is registered as Alpha 6 Hotel Mike, or MSN 28551. The Boeing 747 was built in 1999 for Air Nambia. It then moved to Abu Dhabi, Amiri flight, and then transferred to the government of Morocco. In 2017, it was transferred to the United Arab Emirates, continuing its government functions with the Dubai Air Wing. Jet 1X will deliver the 747-400M to Iceland-based Air Atlanta Icelandic via wet leasing under registration Tango Foxtrot Alpha Mike Hotel, according to CH Aviation. The Icelandic company's fleet consists of 3 747-400s, one 747-400 BCF, and 5 747-400 BDSFs. 3 747-400 FSCDs. My word, they have more versions of the 747 I haven't realized. And obviously the one we're talking about, the Dash 400M. It also operates one A340-300, Captain Nick's favorite hairdryer propelled aircraft, and 2 A340-600s, Nick's favorite aircraft, in a temporary freighter configuration. The airline's Maltese sister airline, Air Atlanta Europe, operates one more 747-400. The US-based ACMI, or ACME, charter is a capacity provider that maintains commercial control over a fleet comprising of 747 freighters. Its speciality is long-haul intercontinental heavy cargo, with flexibility for oversized cargo from the side or the front door. The 747-F, or BCF, Boeing converted freighter, and volumeric capacity using the 747M Combi. So a quick history of the Combi. So the 747-400M passenger or cargo Combi variant was originally designated the 400 BC, or Dash 400 BC. First flew on the 30th of June 1989 and entered service with KLM on September the 12th, 1989. Based on the successful Combi versions of the 747 Classic, the Dash 400M has a large cargo door installed at the rear of the fuselage with the function of loading cargo into the aft main deck cargo hold, giving it a capacity of 292 meters squared in the area. An enclosed membrane separates the cargo area from the forward passenger cabin, and the Dash 400M also features additional fire protection, always a good idea, and reinforced main deck floor, and a roller conveyor system, and a passenger to cargo conversion equipment. The last 747-400M was delivered to KLM on the April 10th, 2002. Boeing sold 61 of the Dash 400M aircraft, which was similar to earlier versions of the 747 Combi, and 78 747-200Ms and 21 747-300Ms. So, because I know they had the 7-3, didn't they? There's still a few 737-200s, I think, Combis
400s.
operating. Was it 400 Combis?
Well, there's 300s and 400s.
Yeah. I know there was a couple of the Combi versions of those, but yeah, didn't realize they had the 400 in that kind of capacity as well. So
yeah, and I think the chat room was asking if this was a former KLM. I think this was actually a Dubai Air Wing one, but that same company has acquired 2X KLM combis to add on to their fleet, and you can imagine, the specialty. All business is about carving out, your own little chunk of the market, and the first thing that came to mind with this kind of combi mission is, car racing, where the teams are going, the mechanics, the engineers are going with it. Horse racing, that's, huge here in the United States, where you have the handlers go with the horses. There's so many different, ways that you could employ a combi. And I know in the military, we actually, I was part of a unit that actually had a combi pallet for the C-130, where we could roll on seats. Now it's pretty common in the military, where they're, KC-135s, it's just a pallet of seats that rolls on type thing. But But we had a C-130 that we had a full combi pallet on, and literally just rolled on the seats. We could fit 30 people or so in regular aircraft seats, coach class seats, and then have all the cargo there. The entire mission package was going out there together. But the civilian version of this has so many applications that it's pretty cool that there's still lots of operators are still using these.
Lee Davies has actually said in the chat room about he spotted the rare. Do you remember these, Nev? The 747 SP. Remember the SPs?
Yes.
Yeah, the SPs are cool.
Yeah, looked very strange when you saw one of those because they were kind of like a normal 747 that looked like it had been chopped in half and had a big section taken out.
Nice. You're really sending
Yes, I can't remember how many were manufactured in the end. It wasn't a huge
Not many.
production line, was it?
No.
And I'm sure that somebody in the United Arab Emirates or Saudi or something like that had one as a private jet.
Mm.
Well,
Oh, really?
so, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
They're interesting to look at, Matt. If you ever get a chance, Matt, put in Google and look at the 747 SP. It does look really strange. It's just like someone's got a 747 and squished it.
And squished it, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And
Well,
sticking
there
with
we
you,
go.
Matt,
Indeed.
we've got some good news for pilots here in the UK, haven't we?
Yeah, although I have a slightly different take on it, and I will come to that in a moment. But the story is: pilots wanted. EasyJet launches new recruitment drive for 1,000 pilots. So this is coming from
I'm off then.
Yeah, right. Yes, indeed. Media. Oh, he really has left his chair, ladies and gentlemen. Mediacentre.easyjet.com and also the CAE.com. Civil Aviation is our sources for this. For the first time since the beginning of the pandemic, EasyJet is reopening its pilot training program with training partner CAE. To support future growth opportunities, the airline is recruiting over 1,000 new pilots over the next 5 years. The new ad campaign featuring multi-talented real-life EasyJet pilots aims to highlight that everyone has the potential to turn their skills and passions towards becoming an airline pilot. Mother of two, Captain Iris DeCan is seen in one of the ads with 5-year-old daughter Kiki. The ad communicates that those with incredible multitasking skills could make for excellent pilots. Former gymnast and now senior first officer with EasyJet, Nina Lee, is featured performing a split leap on the tarmac, showcasing her fantastic reactions and hand-eye coordination, key skills for aspiring pilots. EasyJet senior first officer Aaron Mosley, a former resident DJ, transitioned from the club decks to the flight deck. I see what they did there, by training to become a pilot for EasyJet 7 years ago. His hands-on practical skills have enabled him to switch records for runways. Dear. This is your level of puns, this is, Nev. Sorry. The new recruitment ad campaign is part of EasyJet's efforts to find the next generation of EasyJet pilots, with a continued focus on encouraging more women to become an airline pilot to address the gender imbalance in the industry. Jordan Lundgren, who is the CEO of EasyJet, said, "We continue to focus on challenging gender stereotypes of the career, having doubled the number of female pilots flying with us in recent years. We also acknowledge that whilst we have made progress, there is still work to do. Increasing diversity in all of its forms in the flight deck is a long-term focus for EasyJet, and we will continue to ensure we lead the industry on the issue." The entry criteria for anyone who's interested: candidates must be aged 18 or over by the time they begin their training. They must have a minimum of 5 general certificates of secondary education, that's GCSEs of grade C or above, or the equivalent thereof, including maths, science and English language. You must have the right to work with unrestricted access across the EEA, EU, UK and Switzerland. You must be fluent in English. You must be a minimum height of 5'2", that's 157 centimetres, and you must be able to obtain an EASA or CAA Class 1 medical. there we go. Now, the reason why I'm perhaps going to be a little bit controversial here is because whilst I'm delighted to hear that there's signs of recovery and people are getting all excited about rehiring pilots and stuff. And I was thumbing through Twitter, as I quite often do, and I stumbled across a tweet from a dear friend of ours from the show, and I think it raises a real valid point. This is really what I wanted to highlight with everyone. So it was great to see EasyJet recruiting pilots. This is from Captain Al, by the way, friend of the show. It's great to see EasyJet's recruiting pilots, but sadly their scheme yet again requires significant cash from the individuals. So many prospective pilots of all genders, races, etc. are barred from their dreams because they or their parents don't have 100 plus K in order to be able to sort of fund this now. And I feel this, for me, is the biggest problem, isn't it? It's, and airlines just don't do it. They just don't do it, do they?
Actually, Alan White's got a good comment in the chat room, Matt.
Yeah, okay, all right. We'll
while
come
Matt's
to that.
doing that, so every airline and a lot of businesses are out there recruiting underrepresented demographics, right?
Yeah.
When I was in Atlanta, Delta Airlines is doing the same thing, and they're hiring 200 pilots a month. But it is not a discriminator between one pilot candidate or another. And there is, to use a FMS joke, right? So there's a bit of a discontinuity here in that they are saying they're recruiting underrepresented demographics and minorities and women. But those are also possibly the demographics that have the least amount of access to 109,000 pounds.
Exactly, yeah.
And there is, sure, the earnings potential for an airline pilot over a 20 or 30-year career is in the millions. But 100,000 pounds is quite the barrier. And it's the same here in the States, right? I mean, United Airlines has published they did their big media blitz on their Aviate Academy out west, and it's kind of the same thing. You're still talking $100,000 to become an airline pilot over the course of 2 years. So it doesn't matter what what recruiting efforts you have. There's still a financial barrier, no matter who you are, get into.
But do you not think? I mean, this is something that maybe the aviation industry could actually help solve, because obviously with the resources that they have available to them, whilst it would cost, say, me £100,000 to do it, I mean, they've got access to aircraft and all that kind of thing. It wouldn't cost them £100,000 to help you get through it, and they could have all these, because obviously they're not being funny, but they're buying the fuel at cost. There's no profit being made on that, and what you're getting, you are essentially, I feel, encouraging the best people. If money is no longer a barrier, then you'll get people who could well be the best pilots in the world, who haven't been doing it purely because they don't have access to the resources to become a pilot.
Yeah, I mean, we could go on about this for a little while. So the military has the same problem, right? You're recruiting, but you need a budget.
Yeah.
You need a budget for the housing of the person, all the administrivia, right? So the benefits that they're getting, the healthcare, their retirement. When you hire somebody, you have to plan in the budget for them to retire out of your operation. Then all of the infrastructure costs of running a schoolhouse, running the simulators, those are not cheap per pilot. In the Air Force, the cost to train a pilot from zero to their first day of tactical or mission qualification training was close to $200,000 per pilot, right? So, and that's the military who does everything on the cheap.
Right.
So the airlines, while they have a lot of resources, I don't know that they have limitless resources to just say, oh, we're going to spend, $400 million to train 1,000 pilots over the next 2 years. And there's just it's Europe. You guys do it. It's completely different, right? Because you can be in the right seat of a 737 at EasyJet at 500 hours, right? That's just not how it happens here in the U.S. You have to rise through the ranks, air quotes, right? You have to do your time somewhere, whether corporate, flight instructing or something, to get to a regional to get the experience. And then a regional, although regional jets are pretty big, right? You got the Embraers and the CRJ 900.
Yeah,
You're
true.
talking 100 people. It's an airliner. But even that is considered a transition or a learning path to get to a major airline, which EasyJet here in the U.S. would be right on par with, Southwest or Spirit or something like that, low-cost carriers. And you can't just jump right to Spirit. You still have to get your time. You still have to get your 1,500 hours to be marketable somewhere. And there's no way that the airlines here in the U.S. at least could afford to pay for people to get 1,500 hours to get them into the right seat of a 737 or an A320. So it's just this kind of catch-22, right? Like you can't, I don't know what the solution is. I think the airlines can do more. Like you always say, Matt, I think the airlines can do more, but
that's really my point. I mean, it's a big number. I mean, nobody, unless you're very lucky, nobody has access to that kind of money. That is the cost of a small flat. Do you know what I mean? And people just don't have that kind of money even to buy the flat, let alone sort of spend it on sort of becoming that. I don't know. I completely get your point. I do genuinely feel that there must be some middle ground here somewhere, because even if it was half and half, do you know what I mean? If like the airline there was a way that an airline, you have to be tied in for 5 years or something like that, and you've got to try and pay some of it back or whatever. But they have the resources that you and I perhaps don't have in order to help you get through it, even if it's half and half. Do you know? I genuinely feel they could do more.
Yeah, and thank you, chat room. Yes, EasyJet no longer operates the 737.
Oh, you wrote that.
Yeah.
This is Skynet. Oh wait, it was Nev.
Yeah. Indeed. Have we got?
What?
Have we got? So we've got a. You say there was a comment from Alan White that you wanted to mention. Somebody said no. Was that right?
Oh yeah, he said. Alan White said just a bit further up the list there. He said that there's thousands of already licensed pilots out of work and leaving the industry. Why not employ them? And he puts obviously. Oh wait. The MPL license costs $100K. This is a money-making spin and not an act of goodwill.
Yeah. Well, we could, as Armando says. I mean, this is a conversation we will no doubt.
We all need to play those 6 numbers every Saturday night, guys.
Yeah.
Well, if you're in the UK, that is.
Well, true. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
There we go.
Obviously, other lotteries do exist for
right. Probably one's more profitable. Yes. Anyway.
Exactly.
Moving on.
Nev, you've got the next story, and this is kind of an update, really, on a story that we covered a few weeks back.
When I travel on a turboprop aircraft, very often I find myself sitting next to one of the engines. Might be on a Fokker 50 or a Saab 340 or a Saab 2000 or other things that I've been on. And I've always wondered what would happen if one of the blades of the propeller gave way. Well, let's have a look at flightglobal.com, shall we? Because it explains what might happen under certain circumstances. It says that South African investigators have revealed that a passenger on an Airlink BAE Jetstream 41 missed being struck by a broken propeller blade that penetrated the cabin because they had changed seat during the flight. As the turboprop landed at Venetia Airfield, its right-hand Honeywell TPE 331 engine was hit by a Corrie bastard. Bustard is how you pronounce it.
What?
That's a bird, a big one. One of the continent's largest flying birds, with males weighing up to 18 kilos, which took off from a grass area adjacent to runway 08. The impact, as the jet stream was rolling out at 105 knots, severed one of the 5 propeller blades. It penetrated the fuselage ice guard, cutting through stringers and scythed through the cabin, breaking a left-hand passenger window in the 3rd seat row and leaving fragments and debris scattered in the vicinity. South Africa's Civil Aviation Authority said that the seat had originally been allocated to a passenger for weight and balance purposes, but the aircraft was largely empty with only 4 passengers, and this individual vacated the seat during the flight and moved to sit in the aft cabin, according to the flight attendant. Oh, wow. No one was occupying the third row seat when the blade struck. Such was the impact that the left-hand side of the fuselage was punctured by damaged stringers, and the severe vibration caused by the bird strike dislodged and fractured some of the engine components, including the gearbox, engine mounts and combustion casing. None of the 7 occupants were injured. Investigators stated that, according to the airfield inspector, a runway inspection for foreign object debris and wildlife is carried out before every landing or departure. The inspector performed such a check upon being contacted by the Jetstream crew when the aircraft was descending and 15 nautical miles inbound. After he had completed the inspection, he called the crew and informed them that all was clear, said the inquiry. Investigators have yet to reach a formal conclusion over the accident. The aircraft last underwent maintenance during a sea check on the 1st of June 2021. Quite a bit of damage.
Just looking up, Nev, the Corrie Bustard, as you said, it says here, apparently it's the largest flying bird native to Africa.
Oh, wow.
And reaches a mass of up to 20 kilograms. And they are a large bird. A very large bird. Yeah, I can see why the propeller decided to.
Well, thank goodness they weren't there.
Thank
goodness the people moved, because that could have been a very different conversation, couldn't it?
Unfortunately, this actually happens every couple of years. There's
really,
propeller blade separation. There's been, I think ASA had a crash where somebody got hurt because of the propeller blade. Oh. There was a Embraer. There was a Jazz Dash 8 that lost a propeller blade after the tire blew, and I think that narrowly killed a passenger. So, and we've actually talked. I think we had 2 stories last year, 2021, that had to do with propeller blade separation and somebody either narrowly escaping or actually getting hurt in this. The Jetstream 41. Has a 5-blade composite scimitar prop, so looks pretty cool. They've been redone since they were originally manufactured.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, mercifully nobody was hurt and everything's all intact.
Or a 4-blade on one of the engines now, obviously.
Yeah. It makes maintenance easier and it's cheaper for the propeller overhaul.
There you go.
There you go.
Now, Armando, next story you've got is all about an airline that you'll know very much about soon.
Yeah, I feel like John planted this story in here for me. So this is from the mirror.co.uk, from timeout.com, which is what the airline's going to do to me when I get on the airplane. I love it. It's Brits looking to tick off New York City off the bucket list can now snap up cheap flights to the Big Apple from £139 thanks to a new budget airline. Icelandic airline Play, which launched last year, is now offering flights for £139 each way between Stansted and New York's Stewart International Airport. With Play's route, however, there is a catch. Being an Icelandic carrier, all of the routes stop off in Reykjavik. That might not necessarily be a bad thing, however, because in order to ease the stress of flying, they're taking a break in one of Iceland's most famous geothermal lagoons, or you could stretch your legs by taking in some of the country's jaw-dropping volcanic panoramas. If you don't want to take in the sights, then the stop is just an hour and a half, and you'll be on the way to the USA. So I'm doing this flight, right? I wonder if I can go look at a volcano in an hour and a half. That'd be cool. Let's see. Play is running 4 return flights per week between Stansted and New York. Stewart is one of New York City's lesser-known international transport hubs. While it is further away from the city than JFK or Newark, it's also quieter. The terminal there recently underwent a $37 million expansion and a makeover. But it's not just New York. Play is also operating flights to Boston and Baltimore, Washington. The flights are launching on June 10th. Bookings have already opened on the Play website because I just booked a ticket to London on Play for July. So £139 fares. That's actually a special deal that's just running till February 7th. And then after that, normal fares will be right around £159. But typical low-cost carrier, they're going to charge you for everything. That's for a no carry-on luggage. That's just for a personal item. So it's I think it was $40 or 35 pounds or something like that if you want to carry on luggage and priority boarding, and then additional $20-30 if you want to choose your seats. You can choose your seats towards the back of the airplane. It's like $5, and then towards the front of the airplane it's like $30. So your plane ticket could easily double in price the more things you start adding on. But I'll do a Nev inspired Armando's passenger segment in July after I fly this.
I'm really interested in this because this is one of those things, isn't it, where we're all just so desperate for there to be some kind of adequate low cost route, that is going to work for us to get over to the States. I mean, maybe this is the answer. Who knows?
I know. I was going to say, I know you're a lover of BA, Ned, but would you give these guys a punt?
Well, if I was doing some research for the show, yes.
Right, okay. In other words, he won't pay for it with his own money, but he'll give it a good... Yeah, absolutely.
I would pay for it. And actually, of course, because of the current situation, we've got to find a low-cost method, again, of getting across the Atlantic, haven't we?
I agree, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, boy. Are you going to get on there with your white gloves and check each seat as you're walking down the aisle? Well, you wouldn't walk down the aisle.
Do they have a sort of a premium class that would be adequate for someone of Nev's standing?
No, I think it's one class.
Is it? Right, okay. Maybe an overwing seat for Nev then, just so that he's got a bit of legroom to stretch out and be comfortable. I don't know.
I thought it was funny that the most expensive seat that you could choose was actually at the front bulkhead. It's like, well, that's not the biggest legroom by all. I'd choose an exit row over that.
Is it because it's the quickest location to get out of the aircraft and stuff? Really, so you could be out first.
I suppose
maybe.
if you have if you're trying to
close
get
to one eye as you can get.
Yeah, if you want to get out and see that volcano, you want to be first off the airplane.
Right.
When I was reading this article that John put in here, I actually got super scared, and I was like, wait a minute, they're flying into New York Stewart? Because I just booked a plane ticket on American Airlines to New York's JFK, thinking that it was out of JFK, but then I realized I actually booked out of Baltimore. So not mentioned in the story is there's a flight from Baltimore to Reykjavik to...
Also to Stansted, yeah. It's probably the same connection, isn't it, I guess? The sort of...
I imagine so.
But
I got really scared because I thought I had booked to the wrong New York
one.
airport.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just going from JFK to LaGuardia is an emotional event, and nobody wants to do
Is it? Right, okay. I have many questions. Do I have to ask those after the show? Or
Well, no, it's like going between Heathrow and Gatwick if you came in one and went out the other.
Right. Yeah, okay. Yeah, fair enough, yeah. I'll give you that.
Anyway, Matt,
yes.
do you fancy droning on for the next story?
See what we did there. Right, yeah, thescotsman.com is the website, as well as good old bbc.com for this. And the headline is, ready for takeoff. Oban Airport is set to be a hub for drone delivery flights. So a drone centre could be established in Argyll as a base for carrying medical supplies, mail and equipment for wind farms. Pioneering firm Skyports has been given a £170,000 grant from the UK government and plans setting up its service and training facility at Oban Airport. Last year, Skyports used drones to fly COVID-19 samples and test kits to and from some parts of Argyll to in a UK first. The Scottish Association for Marine Science, which is part of the University of the Highlands and Islands, said its researchers could also be trained could be trained as drone pilots at the facility. Skyport said its vehicles could fly up to 112 miles, that's 180 kilometres, and carry a payload of 6 kilograms, that's 13 pounds. Last year, the company was authorised to carry COVID kits from Mull, Clachlancel and Loch Gilhead to Lorne and the islands hospital in Oban in a project jointly funded by the UK Airspace Agency and the European Space Agency. It's as I say, what a fascinating little story. I guess this is the way it's going to go, isn't it? More and more things are going to be sort of done by drone. Although the payload's not that fantastic, is it? That's
it's enough for a couple bottles of Oban Scotch.
Well, yeah, right, okay, yeah, there is that. Yeah,
A couple of bottles of single malt.
well, yes, yeah, that is a thing. It's but then I suppose if they're recyclable, aren't they? Because they'll return back to base and things like that. All they'll need is charging and stuff. So I suppose you could sort of get what you needed over there. It's just not a lot, is it? I don't think, and I don't speak to. But I mean, hey, you've got to start somewhere. And it's like electric cars, isn't it? You've got to start somewhere.
So, Armando, you've got the next story, and we're moving over to Grant and Steve's neck of the woods.
Man, I love it when we have Australian stories. Perth Airport temporarily closing terminals as low passenger numbers put the airport under financial pressure. So the airport has confirmed that it will close the T1 domestic and all Virgin Australia services relocating next door over to Terminal 2. On the other side of the airport, Terminal 3 will only be open Monday through Friday between 3:30 a.m. and 8 a.m. Those are terrible hours. T1, the Terminal 1 Virgin Australia terminal will close this weekend, with Terminal 3 reverting to its scaled-back hours from Monday, February 7th. Perth Airport is shunting Virgin Australia services next door to the far less salubrious and considerably smaller Terminal 2. According to them, according to a spokesperson for the Perth Airport, they said that with passenger numbers remaining low, the airport has taken a number of sensible and responsible steps to reduce operational costs. Unfortunately, this includes temporarily closing the terminals. Instead of closing terminals, Perth Airport should be gearing up for a bumper weekend. Western Australia is due to reopen its borders to interstate travelers this weekend. However, Western Australia government recently walked away from that commitment. Oh, I'm glad they put that paragraph in there. It just toys with your emotions.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, everything's open. No, it's not.
No.
Let's see. This story came from Simple Flying. In January, they reported that Australia's big domestic carriers had flights from multiple East Coast cities scheduled to land in Perth within minutes of the midnight border reopening. Those flights have since vanished from the schedules. There you go. So about 4,000 interstate passengers passed through Perth Airport last year. In U.S. dollars, they posted a loss of $46 million. So, as we talked about through the pandemic, when all airports were half shut down, keeping those terminals open does cost a lot of money. So, the pandemic strikes again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm still not convinced that, it's... I mean, I understand why they've been so nervous about what's been going on and stuff, but I don't know. Is it time we need to, they need to reopen and...
You want a positive story from Australia?
Sorry?
You want a positive story from Australia?
Yeah.
Nev. There you go. You got the next story.
Oh,
Well done, Nev.
Yeah, well, if we're going right across the other end of the country to Melbourne, and if we look at airporttechnology.com and airportworld.com, it tells us that Melbourne Airport is the Australian state of in the Australian state of Victoria, has unveiled its plans to build a new 3,000-metre third runway at its facility. The proposal of creating the new runway would require shortening the existing east-west runway and changes to the flight paths. Its new runway proposal will be showcased at a formal exhibition, and the community will be invited to use an interactive noise tool to explore future aircraft tracks in different operating modes. The community will be able to offer their feedback on the project until mid-May. If the proposed runway gets the go-ahead, it's expected to create 37,000 jobs throughout the state. Well, that's all well and good, but if the Heathrow's third runway is timeline's anything to go by,
it may be a while.
Or like episode 800, I would imagine. However, let's look at some of the better news that Melbourne has had in a while, because they're unveiling a new pop-up gin shop.
Now you have my
according
attention.
to airportworld.com. LaGuardia Travel Retail has joined forces with 4 Pillars to bring up a pop-up gin shop into Terminal 1 at Melbourne Airport. Open now, the one-stop gin shop offers a selection of 4 Pillars gins, including core and limited releases. A select range of made-from gin products is also available to purchase, including breakfast Negroni, rare dry gin chocolate, and rare dry gin salt. 4 Pillars and LaGuardia Travel Retail have worked together in the past on domestic and duty-free operations in Australia and internationally, including in Cairns, Auckland and Hong Kong. We're excited to be taking this next step together with 4 Pillars and Melbourne Airport, said LaGuardia's Travel Retail CEO. Our specialist team of travel retail experts has been trusted to bring retail experiences to life for some of the world's most protected icons, and are honoured to be adding 4 Pillars to the list through this store opening. Whilst Andrew Gardner, who's Melbourne Airport's Chief of Commercial Retail and Property, commented, "We're delighted to welcome such a recognisable Victorian brand to Melbourne Airport. 4 Pillars pop-up gin shop is a fantastic offering to passengers passing through the airport, allowing them to try some of the world-renowned products made in this state." That's located in Qantas's domestic terminal, Terminal 1, and the 4 Pillars pop-up gin shop will be around until July 2022.
Ooh.
I'd like to go there.
Absolutely, I think so. I'd like to give it a go. I love gin. We know that's my
I know
tickle.
you do.
Yeah.
That's why you get on so well with Gemma.
Absolutely. We're usually complaining about you, actually, if I'm honest. No,
She's not complaining at the moment.
No, you've been quite well behaved, so I hear.
Even after the WhatsApp message I sent her this afternoon.
Yeah,
anyway.
you're a fool. You really are.
No, I think they should open up a pop-up whiskey shop though.
Wow.
We can't
Okay.
just have all gin.
Okay. Fair enough.
And Alan White has said in the chat room, a breakfast gin. Now that sounds delicious.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Who would have thought that, this pop-up gin shop would have made international news on a world-renowned broadcast such as this one?
Right.
We should do a news segment for every new retail shop that opens in every airport around the world.
And we should test them as well, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if we can persuade them to do that,
Yeah.
that would be great. Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
Yeah. No, that
Could be a whole new string to Nev's passenger experience.
Right. Okay.
What do you reckon, Nev?
Yeah, sounds good.
Nev's retail passenger experience.
Mind you, you know that in some airports in the UK, those early morning flights, the 5:15 and 5:30 check-in times for some of these flights, you see lots of people in the bar drinking. This morning, I could not believe what I was seeing at Stockholm's Arlanda airport. Now, I didn't think the Swedes really went in for this, but they were going for it like the clappers at 5:45 this morning with beer, wine, the whole thing. So, and that's before they got on the aircraft. Not mine, luckily.
I don't even know what that means, going for it like the clappers, but it sounds like they were really into it. That
yes.
sounds like the kind of thing you should deny boarding.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
We forget, guys. Sometimes things don't quite translate the same.
Oh, I think it translates just fine. I got my own version in my head.
Well, there we
dear.
go.
Anyway,
be afraid, everyone. Be
terrible.
very,
Be
very
afraid.
afraid.
Be
Yes,
afraid.
indeed.
Lost my train of thought there. Next story. Skiesmag.com. And this is flipping awesome, I will say. Retired pilot flies around the world from his backyard. So Camrose, Alberta native, Bob Roberts, retired from recreational flying 10 years ago, but his departure from the skies hasn't technically stopped him from flying. With the help of Ontario-based Flight Deck Solutions, FDS, Roberts built a full-scale Boeing 737 MAX simulator in his backyard. And since the installation in November 2021, he's banked almost 150 hours to destinations like Palm Springs, Los Angeles, Vancouver, and Hawaii. The simulator, dubbed Cam Air, after the city he calls home, was a passion project that began turning heads across Canada among the aviation community after Roberts was encouraged to reach out to local news publication. Roberts, who earned his private pilot license at the age of 18, grins when asked to share where he found his love for aviation. He recalled pedaling his bike in his youth to Deer Lake Regional Airport in Newfoundland to watch the jets take off and land. Fascinated, the boy fell in love with the physics and the math behind it all, and soon he was flying model aircraft and daydreaming of a future in the sky. In 1996, along with a partner, Roberts built a Zenith Zodiac CH601, I'm sure Armando knows what that is, in his garage. It was an aluminium with rivets, no fabric, and it took 2 years and 4 months to build it, he said. Over the course of his 30-year flying career, Roberts piloted a Cessna 172 along with the Zodiac. Then, without previous airline experience, he used his spare time in retirement to train online to fly the 737 MAX. Roberts took to YouTube to learn how to fly the MAX. He studied hours of flight training tutorials posted by pilots who also happened to be Catholic priest in Yorkshire, England. Oh, hello. Finally, after watching many hours of demonstrated videos, he was ready. Despite the recent shift in focus to commercial customers, he said, we certainly enjoy accommodating a few enthusiastic customers like Bob throughout the year, FDS told Skies. Many private customers want to build a cockpit in stages, but Bob truly exemplified exceptional planning and dedication in this project, making him a real pleasure to deal with for our crews. He was a real gem. Need to meet this guy. The Cam Air project took 18 months to complete. He said, I got the cockpit, nose liners, pedestals, all motorized, he said. You can get the lower version, but I decided to go with the Pro version. Everything has motorized throttles and trim works exactly like a real MAX. Well, hopefully the right way. Roberts is already planning a huge upgrade this April, this year. He's got standard 1080p projectors, which will be replaced this year with 4K projectors.
Oh, hello.
Utilizing the Sim's high-level avionics coupled with virtual air traffic control groups like Virtual Air Traffic Simulation Network and Pilot Edge, Roberts can receive realistic weather and traffic control. You actually talk to real people, he explained. They're in their homes with air traffic simulation installed on the computers so you can see your plane and even talk to you. Yes, I know all about that myself. It looks amazing. I'm not going to lie. I have to say, the pictures that Matt put up on the screen there, yeah. I dread to think how much that cost.
A couple. I mean, the projectors alone, because that must be, 3 or 4 projectors to give that wrap around.
4K projector. There must be 3. You'd have 3. You'd have one each side.
Isn't the clue in the resolution? It's 4K, isn't it?
True.
Yeah, just for the monitors.
Yeah, that's just the projection. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
absolutely amazing.
I think we've all seen a bunch of these home simulators. Interesting that they're mostly 737s, but this one looked above and beyond. It looked really, really nice. Not just the cockpit portion, but the
way it's been
enclosure. Yeah, exactly. The enclosure, the room that it's in, the way the projector screen wraps around. That's almost as the same quality as you would find in a real training facility.
I was going to say, actually, Armando, I wouldn't be surprised if he's gone to this much effort to recreate the exact detail that it couldn't get signed off as a training sim.
Yeah, I don't know how that works. I don't know how it works over there in Europe, because I know that like when we went to London for the 200th, that was an approved simulator that you could do training in.
Yeah.
Here, you know what? To be honest, I would have to dig into the regs a little bit, because we have FTD flight training devices, aircraft training devices, ATDs, and we have full flight simulators, and we have FTDs, FFS, ATD, all kinds of different levels, and there's certain things that you can do in each one. I'm sure EASA is probably the same, or CAA, but I don't know. I'd have to look into that.
I'll have to get definitely have to do those 6 numbers this weekend, Matt.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So, quick end to the story then, as we're on the subject of sims. For those of you all know, I love my X-Plane 11, and I use it at home quite frequently. But there is a new addition, actually. Matt's got the video on the screen here. I have got a new addition to the setup, and a few months ago I got in touch with the guys over at Core Flight Technologies. Now, these guys supply various different parts, 737 parts, such as the MCP panel you're seeing on the screen. And I got in touch with the guys and had a little chat, and they very kindly sent across an MCP panel for me to have here at home. And I have to say, it is a fantastic piece of kit. These guys have really done a really good job with this. They've got the website. Don't check out the website unless you want to lose loads of money, because you will end up spending, if you love your sim at home, you'll end up spending loads of money, because it is a real awesome bit of kit, these guys. It's plug and play as well. You just literally plug it in and it works seamlessly with X-Plane on the home PC. Really good. And Matt's got the video there. What do you think, Armando?
Oh yeah, I still think you're slowly building an actual airliner in your house.
Yeah, in stealth mode, without the wife realizing.
One of these days, you're just going to have to open the window, and there's going to be a winglet sticking out.
So the guys at Core Flight Technologies have designed these bits of kit. I mean, I've been in conversation with them via their website, and they've designed these to work with the Zebo mod and the Level Up mod, which is a free add-on to X-Plane 11. So if you're tired of the stock 737 on X-Plane 11, you can download a Zebo mod, which most simmers will probably have heard of. But there's also a new mod or addition to the Zebo mod now, which is called the Level Up 737 add-on. And you can get different models. You can get the 600, 700, 800, and 900 ER models on there now. Matt's got the pictures on the screen for you, and as you can see, the visuals are honestly stunning. There's even an EFB on the flight deck for you to use, which you can access loads of stuff on there for the exterior of the aircraft. You can lower the air stairs, cool ground, crew, refueling, air conditioning units, external power units. You can even call a de-icing truck, which would have been handy for Nev, I expect, from where he's just been. But no, honestly, if you love your sim, and if you are getting stuff at home for your home sim, Core Flight Technologies, Matt will put the website link in the show notes. Give the guys a look. They've got Airbus bits on there as well, not just Boeing stuff. So you can. They've also got some Cessna stuff on there as well, which is also worth looking at. So give them a look. And it's awesome. I shall be probably doing another little flight on Sunday, I expect, in the comfort of the office here.
Of the office, right?
Yeah.
Well, the Airbus equivalent to this is just an app on your phone, on your iPhone.
Yeah, it's just a button. It's just a button you press. It does it all for you.
No, it says, teach me how to fly. It's just a takeoff button.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, look at this simulation that I'm doing.
It's amazing, yeah. It's basically a video. That's what it is. Indeed. Actually, while we're talking about things that people got up to over the weekend, I mentioned earlier on in the show, actually, that I took a little trip to Duxford. And I think we mentioned in last week's show the the Spitfire exhibit that they were having there, which was quite nice. And Carlos, one of the things that so these are the pictures that Jonathan Warner very kindly sent me. Obviously, we started in the American hangar because those are the rules. But
Matt, what is that aircraft?
Oh, don't ask me. You're gonna. To be fair to Mr. Warner, he was a fantastic guide. This one was the Blackbird, isn't it? This particular one that's in front of. Yeah, absolutely. Don't ask me what the other one was. I don't know. But Jonathan was a fantastic guide. I've forgotten everything that he shared with me because that's just the way that I am. But the great news, see, the advantage about me forgetting these conversations is when I go again, I will be as interested as I was last time because I have no recollection of what happened. But one of the things I'm hoping that's in here. So this is inside the hangar, the VF 74. What have we got else? Yeah, I must admit we did spend a lot of time in the American hangar there. Now, Jonathan was saying actually this was actually painted. The paint job on this was actually painted by his grandfather, which I thought was quite fascinating. Wow. Which is in Duxford. There's also, as I say, there's me. Yeah. So I don't know if you've watched the show before, you might remember that when we had a meet up there. We were having we did an interview with Captain Nick by this very aircraft, which is what you can see on my phone there. And as I say, it was. I'm just somewhere. Here we go. I think I'm just trying to get to the so this is the Spitfire Hall.
Oh yeah.
That was great. And what was especially nice, Carlos, was, do you remember the NHS one that we saw at Shuttleworth? It's actually here. It's actually in amongst the aircraft that were... we just had the one, did we? Right, okay, we're back into... Oh, that's the Concorde hangar, isn't it? That one.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, indeed. With the what I always refer to the one that we're looking here. I always say that's the Catalina, isn't it? But of course, it's not. It's something else, isn't it? It looks very similar.
Oh, the flying boat. Yeah, I forget
absolutely.
which one. What's that called? Yeah. I expect Michael will probably know that one. But.
Indeed, but one of the aircraft that we were talking about last week that's arrived. Was it a Dan Air one that's just arrived? I think was it Dan Air one that's just not Dan Air.
Oh, it's the AE146
from the 32 Squadron.
Yeah.
Of the Royal Flight.
Indeed, you couldn't get too close to it, but it was in it was still airside, if you see what I mean. But that's arrived, and I think they were in the process of stripping it down and getting everything out. But I tell you what, I mean, you can just see by some of the pictures in there, and talk about getting it right weather-wise. It was an absolutely stunning day, and I was a bit worried because it's been quite windy here in the UK. If you're here, you'll know it's been very windy here in the UK, and I was a bit worried about it being a bit exposed, obviously, because it can be a bit on that airfield. It can sort of cut through you, but it was a truly beautiful day, as I say. And Mr. Warner was a fabulous guide for the day, so I had a great day.
You guys are so lucky to have that museum. It's just so well done, and such a unique museum with aircraft from both sides of the ocean. Just really well done. I never got tired of Duxford. No. This guy Carlos in the chat room is saying that him and Sturman are off to Duxford in a couple of weeks.
Oh, are you?
Yeah,
oh, cool.
Taken Sturman because he's the last time he went, he was about 6 years old.
Oh, wow.
So Sturman's never seen the American hangar or the ground warfare hangar.
Oh, wow. The ground warfare. The ground warfare one is amazing.
So I said to Gareth last week, I said, I'll take you there in a few weeks' time. We'll get a look.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Speaking of him, these guys put me on the spot a couple of days ago, and they sent me a grainy WhatsApp video.
Oh, yes.
That said,
Sturman didn't he? Yeah.
It was a nighttime video of what can only be described as UFO alien lights in the sky. And he said, hey, what's that? It looks military. And I took a stab in the dark and said it was a KC-135 with its formation lights accidentally left on landing, probably into Mildenhall. And he did right. That sure enough, that is what it was. It was a 135. Wow, okay.
Yeah. Good guess.
Could have also been the leaked Navy footage of the UFOs that they saw over the Atlantic.
Sure. I don't know. Yeah, it's a funny old one, isn't it? It's He said, "Well, you did well to sort of pick that up. To be fair, actually, sorry, Mr. Warner's just sent me. Here we go, Carlos. This might mean a little bit more to you. That was what was in the hangar there. The thank you NHS one. And what was quite nice is because you could get close enough to see. So the people that like sponsored it, everybody, because you could pay. I don't think it was too bad. Was it? It was like £15 or £20 to be able to have your name written on the side of said Spitfire that was doing the rounds and stuff, which I know a lot of people did. But yeah, it was a great exhibition. I'm glad we got the opportunity to go and take a look.
Oh, that flying boat, Matt.
Yes,
it's Sunderland.
Yeah, no, I know that isn't the flying boat, but it looks like the Catalina, which I know Mike has got a soft spot for. So
yes.
that was it.
Well, yes. we're sticking with military. Armando, what's next?
Well, what's next is you guys are showing these pictures of these Spitfires. You know, every year the British Aerobatics Academy, they run, or there's another organization that runs a raffle for £100 or something like that, and you can buy a ticket, and it gives you an opportunity to fly in the backseat of a Spitfire. You know that is not open to foreigners. You have to be a UK citizen.
Oh,
I would become a UK citizen just to be able to buy a ticket to potentially fly in the backseat of a Spitfire.
Surely you're an honorary Brit. Surely
I was a registered traveler. Does that count?
Yeah, I reckon so. I'm sure we can make.
I go through the E-gates at Heathrow. Does that count?
Very good.
Well, actually, it's expired now, so I'm going to have to go with the commoners.
Oh no.
For the 400s, I should probably plan an extra 4 hours for that now.
I would, yeah, absolutely, yeah. I'd arrive now if I were you.
Anyways. As usual, despite our best efforts, we still have a little bit of time for great. So, Matt, if you're ready, let's hit the button.
Nev's face.
I think Nev's checked out. Nev's getting his A330 type rating on his phone right now. Stole that from the chat.
He's got a bottle of Pinot hidden under there.
All right, enough making fun of Nev. So this is nothing funny about this. Everybody that's been watching the news knows that the security situation over in Europe is a little bit tepid right now with Ukraine. So we will, as usual, keep an eye on current events when it comes to the military side of the house. But I picked a couple stories relating to the situation over in Ukraine. And this first one comes to us from AirForceTimes.com, a pseudo-official organization publication. So obviously we saw in the news this week that some American troops are now on standby there in Europe to see what happens with Russia. But U.S. and allied reconnaissance flights in the region have been ongoing since at least December 24th, dispatching multiple types of military aircraft to serve as extra eyes and ears over Europe. On Wednesday alone, aviation radar tracking sites, that's not radar tracking sites, actually ADS-B tracking sites, showed at least 8 American and Swedish aircraft flying over Ukraine, the Black Sea and the Baltics. That included 2 RC-135 VW rivet joint aircraft. Those are communication signals intercepts, and as well as an RQ-4 Global Hawk that gathers high-altitude images and other data through various sensors. So the Global Hawk may have been peering down at a string of Russian troops built up along the border with Ukraine, as well as the smaller countries south, according to expert analyses online. They've noted that the MQ-9's visit to Russian-occupied Crimea in southern Ukraine on January 21st. Another flight tracker caught a JSTARS, an E8C. Of course, that one has ground-moving GMTI, ground-moving target indicator radar. So those have all been flying over Ukraine at least 3 days, the past 3 days. And they've been joined by a couple rivet joints, E3s, P8s, anti-submarine patrol jets, as well as other aircraft flown by NATO, the UK, Germany, U.S. Army, and the U.S. Navy. In addition to that, F-15 Strike Eagles have been moved from Seymour Johnson Air Force Base in North Carolina, and those have arrived in Estonia on Wednesday to bolster NATO's air policing efforts in the Baltics. Now on the other side of the house, Russia has deployed Su-35 fighter jets to Belarus for what they're calling military drills. They've completed that deployment of the multi-role fighter jets to Belarus as part of what they're calling joint exercises between the two ex-Soviet countries. According to a statement from the Russian Defense Ministry, they said that the multi-role Su-35S fighter jets from the Eastern Military District dispatched for an inspection of the Union States Response Forces. Thank you, Google Translate. They completed their deployment at airfields in Belarus. The crew of 12 Su-35 fighter planes was sent to Belarus for participation in the Union Resolve 2022 Russia-Belarus joint exercise scheduled for next month. These aircraft have landed at the Baranovichi airfield in the Brest region. Upcoming military drills will run from February 10th through February 20th, according to the country's defense ministry. Joint exercises aim to, quote, assess the ability of military command centers and troops of the Union state to suppress and repel external aggression and fight terrorism. The troops from Russia and Belarus will practice their joint operations in Obuz Lesnovsky, Osipovitsky, Bretsky, Gorsky, Domanovsky training grounds, and they will also involve a couple airfields in Baranovichi, Lunets, Lida, and Machulisky. Yeah, there you go. This episode has been brought to you by Google Translate. Let's see, another kind of developing story from the drive.com. More Russian military helicopters appear to be arriving in Crimea. A series of videos and posts posted to social media accounts. This was on Twitter. Within the last 48 hours, show formations of Russian aerospace forces, or VKS helicopters, moving into Crimea's Kerch region in the far east of that peninsula and on the coast of the Sea of Azov. Some of these helicopters included Ka-52s, Mi-28s attack helicopters, and at least 7 Mi-24s, Mi-35 Hind armed assault helicopters. Some Mi-8s also went to the region, and then Mi-26s, heavy transport helicopters, were seen in the videos and some of the imagery. The helicopters, why this is important, is they were an integral part of the 2014 campaign in Crimea, with particular operations including reported landings by at least 11 helicopters in that Kerch region. So there you go. This is just kind of, the situation is increasing a little bit, and it's never good when more and more forces are flowing into the area. So as you guys can imagine, you're leaving it more than I am over here. You know, you're in the European security situation. We'll keep an eye on it, and we'll stay politically neutral and just kind of report on the aviation aspects of what's going on here. So there you go. That's your Ukraine update for the week.
Yes, I suspect this is going to be what I like to refer to as a developing story. I think is how they.
How many intercepts we had this week that has been on the Sky News?
Saw there was quite a few over in the UK. Hasn't? Yeah.
Yes. So this next one comes to us from the aviationist.com. And the headline, US MH-60M helicopter used in raid to kill ISIS leader in Syria, blown up on the ground by US forces. So what we know about the US Special Forces raid on al-Qurayshi in Syria and the MH-60M helicopter destroyed on the ground because it was not going to be usable for the return flight. So US President Joe Biden announced this week the death of Abu Ibrahim al-Hishami al-Qurashi, the leader of the Islamic State militant group. Happened during a special forces raid this week in Syria. The raid to take down al-Qurashi, successor of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, killed during a raid in 2019, was being planned for months, with President Biden giving the final approval for the assault on February the 1st, 2022. A Defense Department official said that an airstrike on the target was ruled out early in the planning because of the potential for civilian casualties involved, as intelligence showed that the terrorist leader was living in a 3-story building with an unrelated civilian family on the first floor. That, however, was not enough to prevent collateral damage, as al-Quraishi detonated an explosive belt, destroying the building's 3rd floor and killing his family. The counter-terrorism operation happened after midnight and lasted more than 2 hours, according to the details released this week. A civilian who lives nearby the target compound, interviewed by the Washington Post, said he'd heard the helicopters arriving at around 1 a.m., followed by heavy gunfire and clashes that went on until around 4 a.m. Unconfirmed reports mentioned the presence of multiple Apache AH-64E helicopters and MH-47G Chinooks and MH-60M Black Hawk helicopters. At least one unspecified unmanned aerial vehicle was monitoring the area from above during the raid. Images and videos circulating online show the remains of the MH-60M helicopter of the 160th Special Operation Aviation Regiment, or SOAR, Night Stalkers, recognizable from its heavily modified nose, which was less damaged in the explosion. Senior administration officials confirmed that the helicopter suffered a mechanical issue as it arrived near the target compound. After the insertion of the Special Forces, it was assessed that the specially modified MH-60 was not going to be usable for the return flight, and the decision was made to fly it well beyond any kind of visual range and then detonate it. The helicopter did not suffer a crash of any kind, and there aren't any reports about crew's injuries, while sensitive items were removed before the destruction. Oh, yeah. I kind of get the idea here. You know, you don't want to obviously let one of the most modified special forces helicopters fall into the wrong hands. So if you can't fly it out or drive it out, C4 it out.
Yeah, this is always a contingency plan. Let me tell you, these kinds of missions are never easy, regardless of how much you plan for them. You have, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, you know, we have general plans on how we conduct operations like this, but regardless of how much you plan it, you always plan for something to go wrong. And the destruction of sensitive assets is always, you know, part of that contingency plan. What was interesting about this, that it's been in the media now for a couple of days, and they were on the ground for a couple hours. So one of my, I guess, not questions, nobody's going to answer my question, but I'm wondering if, you know, they were running the engines on the ground logging for an hour. You know, maybe they had a gearbox issue, maybe they had some kind of overtemp. It's interesting. I would be interested to find out if they flew in, did the insertion, and flew back out into a different staging area. But it seemed like this actual helicopter was there near the target area, and you know, and you plan for it to for things to go wrong, and the other aircraft. There's a lot of aircraft. The helicopters are the ones that are seen by the people on the ground, and they make it to the social media. But rest assured, there's a stack, what we call a stack of aircraft, that probably had some surveillance, some overwatch, some armed assets. There was probably some kind of armed overwatch aircraft, maybe a gunship overhead, perhaps some fighter jets that were ready to come down should the situation develop a little bit more, become more dynamic. But then the helicopters, you know, are obviously the most vulnerable, being close to the ground and landing close to the objective. So there you go. I'm glad everybody's okay. On the military side, it's very unfortunate that there was some collateral damage on this one. And of course, we may not get the full story, but at least that's one more enemy combatant that's off the battlefield.
Nev looks devastated by the loss of this MH-60.
Well, you know, I try to offer empathy, and you know, in these situations.
Indeed.
It's not my field of expertise, though, I have to say.
That's why we have an Armando.
Exactly.
It is,
right.
I think even Nev would like to see one of these in a museum as opposed to blown up in the
Well,
middle
yeah,
of the
I would agree with that. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So Nev, sticking with you. for this next story?
Yeah, this is a good one on the aviationist.com. On February the 1st, a B-1B Lancer with the 28th Bomb Wing from Ellsworth Air Force Base, South Dakota, 2 F-15E Strike Eagles from the 494th Fighter Squadron from RAF Lakenheath, and an F-35B Lightning belonging to the RAF 207 Squadron from RAF Marham, accompanied by an RAF Hawk camera ship, celebrated the 80th anniversary of the 8th Air Force. Flying as Ox-ray flight, the Bones B-1s undertook a round-trip mission to the UK from their home base in South Dakota. In the end, just one of the 3 Lancers, one was an air spare, completed the transatlantic crossing. The B-1 flew with the rest of the dissimilar formation over the Imperial War Museum, Duxford, the Cambridge American Cemetery and Memorial, which is a World War II American military war grave cemetery, at Madingley in Cambridgeshire, as well as RAF Marham in Norfolk, RAF Lakenheath and RAF Mildenhall in Suffolk. The photos, which I think Matt's showing, were taken by aviationist contributor Stuart Jack at RAF Lakenheath and RAF Mildenhall. Today, the 8th Air Force is one of 2 active duty numbered air forces in Air Force Global Strike Command, with headquarters at Barksdale Air Force Base, Louisiana, that controls long-range conventional strike and nuclear-capable bomber assets worldwide, and commands the National Airborne Operations Centre platform. So that's a long way to come, isn't it? From South Dakota to Cambridgeshire. But
shoot,
yeah.
Those guys probably thought it was a short flight.
Well, there you go. Yeah, probably. Yeah.
B-1 pilots probably thought, it's just a training run over to England and back.
As you do.
By the way, the American Cemetery, a memorial at Cambridge, is very, very moving, isn't it?
It is. I've been a few times actually. I've been lucky enough. Quite often, I would. There was somewhere where I could usually park the coach over that side of Cambridge, and many an afternoon has been spent enjoying the peace and tranquility of what is as you say, a very moving site. Very, very moving indeed. It's been very beautifully done, hasn't it? Very.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So Armando, you've got this last one.
Yeah. This one also from thedrive.com. I thought this was kind of interesting as we were talking about, the drones up in Scotland about being disposable. So this is autonomous resupply gliders making their first successful deliveries on their first overseas deployment. 2 C-130 cargo aircraft, which are not autonomous gliders, operated by a, air quotes again, U.S. allied government in the Middle East, have completed successful deliveries using autonomous Silent Arrow GD-2000 cargo gliders in their first overseas military deployment. So Silent Arrow claims that their disposable glider drones can be deployed for military resupply and disaster relief missions at half the cost of existing cargo airdrop systems. According to a Silent Arrow press release, the successful delivery saw 2 of these gliders loaded with about 1,000 pounds of undisclosed cargo when they were dropped out of C-130s over a desert environment. The gliders then navigated and flew autonomously to their landing point, at which point they executed a flare to reduce their speed and landed successfully. The deliveries were conducted as part of a $1.5 million operational evaluation contract, and the company expects to begin full rate production in 2023 with orders into the thousands of units. Currently, 12 of the gliders are deployed to the Middle East, and another 15 are in production. Now, these gliders are considered a disposable standoff delivery platform, which can carry a cargo weight of up to 1,600 pounds and deliver it within 40 nautical miles when dropped from a fixed-wing aircraft at a maximum altitude of 25,000 feet. When dropped from a helicopter, the company claims a 15-mile maximum standoff range. In the fact sheet, Silent Arrows claims that the drone can land within 100 meters of its intended target with a full stall landing to create a zero vertical impact. Matt's showing the video there. It's pretty cool. The rectangular fuselage consists of about a 2 foot by 2 foot by 8 foot container with removable lids that contains the drone's 7 foot pop out wings. Now, once this is all loaded, the nose cone and the tail are installed on the fuselage. Static lines are attached to its host aircraft. And when the glider is pushed out of the aircraft, those static lines remove pins that allow the wings to open up, and then it soars to about 130 knots, which is pretty good for a glider. And the stall speed of this is about 62 knots when half loaded, 92 knots when fully loaded. Believe it or not, these disposable gliders have a variety of features. They have avionics that include an autopilot, magnetometers, barometers, GPS navigations systems, LiDAR rangefinders, a first-person optional video, so like a video game, RF frequencies capabilities, and these gliders can be programmed using Android.
Wow.
Sorry. No, I'm just kidding. Android Tactical Assault Kit, enabling to be controlled by a variety of off-the-shelf or military mobile devices. So Android only, not iOS, disposable glider.
Oh dear! See Carlos's eyes light up there. Yeah.
Pretty cool. Like, I thought, speaking of World War II and the memory of World War II, the gliders were such an important mission back then. But for each glider crew, there was a DC-3 or C-47 crew that was towing them into harm's way. And this is a pretty unique, autonomous, cardboard disposable glider thingy. Yeah. Pretty neat, right?
Agreed. Very, very cool indeed. It's definitely, everything's moving that way, isn't it? I mean, it's.
Have you took your one up lately, Matt? Or are you still?
Do you know what? I was literally having a conversation about that a few weeks ago, and on the days where I've been able to, actually, the weather has not been great, because that's the only trouble with the ones that we can buy to play with, if you see what I mean. They're not great. You need a very, very still day for them to be controllable, and they do have like the gyro things in it, so, and like GPS and everything all built in it, so it will more or less hold its position, but it doesn't take much for it to be too much for them to sort of self-compensate, if you see what I mean. It's do
you not fancy one of these, Nev? I thought you'd be well up for a DJI Phantom or like a.
Do you know, I've never really. I think if I was going to run my own business and I wasn't doing what I'm doing for work at the moment, that might be something I might do. Drone photography, that
absolutely.
kind of thing. But it hasn't really appealed to me thus far, I've got to say.
And it is really complicated, isn't it? I mean, the permissions required to do any form of commercial filming are huge. I mean, it's not a 5-minute job. You need permissions. I mean, like if you wanted to film anything in London, you need written permission from all sorts of people to be able to do that.
And the Queen?
Well, probably, yeah. It's someone like that, certainly. But
so we're going to start to wrap up the show now.
Yep.
Nev,
4 minutes.
would you like to run through the social media platform?
Yes, don't forget you can find us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Just search those platforms for Plain Talking UK. Our WhatsApp number, +44 757 2249166. That's +44 757 2249166. You can email the show at podcast@plaintalkinguk.com, and our website is www.plaintalkinguk.com. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. You'll get notifications when we go live, and you can help shape the conversation of the show by joining us in the chat room. You can go to youtube.com and search for Plain Talking UK to do that. Also, we've got an Amazon link on our website, so if you do your shopping with Amazon, which I know Carlos does extensively, if you do it through our website, we get paid a small referral fee, and that all goes to make the whole thing work. And you can also become a Patreon, and you can do that by going to our main website, plaintalkinguk.com,
which you can now use sterling. which is very exciting.
Oh, right. That's good, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh, that's good.
Absolutely.
Good old pounds, shillings, and pence.
Absolutely. Yes. Not everything's in dollars now, so you can pledge £1 if you want to, which we would be very grateful for. Absolutely.
So that's it then, guys. That is where we're going to wrap up episode 398 of the show. Thanks to everyone for joining us this evening in the YouTube chat room. All the usual family members in there. Been great to see you all in there this evening. There's been a great conversation in there as well. So a big thanks to you all for that. It's been great to have you on board. So thanks to Armando for joining us this evening, as always. Thanks for your awesome input
20 seconds
this evening. And thanks to you, Nev, as well. Thanks to Matt. And not forgetting, thanks to John as well for putting the show notes together for us this evening for the show. So that's it from me, Carlos, here in my home studio, from Nev in his studio at home, from Armando across the pond, and from Matt in the PTUK Master Suite Studios. Take care, everyone. Have a great weekend. Goodbye.
Bye-bye, everyone.